This is my SpaceX rocket booster that I built that can go by itself and land by itself. And I can show you that right now. It'll go about 15 seconds, and then it will kill its engines, and then start free falling back down. And it should land where it took off from. Is it incredibly accurate? No, I haven't gotten it to be incredibly accurate yet, but for the most part, it stays up without any gyros. It uses angle sensors and small rocket boosters to keep itself upright, and let's see if it's going to land in an appropriate spot. Yep, it will. So how this rocket works is by some simple mechanics. You don't need this dynamite that's here. This is really just to make it explode if it were to tip over, kind of like the real rocket. You have a distance sensor right here to activate this AND statement, which then activates all of the rockets so it can go by itself. But how this actually works is with these little angle sensors right here. I think every single one of these is in a negative position. And the reason why I did the negative 90.5 direction and a width of 180 is because it'll tilt it basically in every axis that's right here going in this arc direction. It's 1 degree of movement. And now you can adjust it so that it would be smaller, so it can constantly adjust itself, but I've gotten it to work really well like this. I have this weighted here because I removed a lot of weight to make this skeleton work, but to show you guys how you make this work is that when it tips this way, the ball's going to go here, so you want to counteract that. How you counteract it is going by the opposite direction where it's going. That's by every single one of these in the opposite direction that it will fall. I have 2 thrusters here. The distance doesn't really matter because as long as you have the center of mass, it should be where this is. Now you can adjust it so that it's a lot smoother. Let's see here. It should, by doing this, it'll make it a lot better. Yeah. Just like that. Now it's in the center. More like it. We're going to say this real fast. But if it's in the center, it's able to adjust itself a lot faster. I have this altitude sensor here that activates the landing gear at 100 feet, so it folds upwards, and then I have at a 90-degree angle, so it sits flat. This altitude sensor is the same height, but goes the opposite way, but it goes for these turning controls at a 55-degree angle, and then you can adjust that so if you want it more shallow, so if you're worried about it not standing upright, this will work pretty well. Now the thrusters. So when it comes back down, you need a speed sensor, and the speed sensor activates an AND logic, and you want the speed to be about 2.2. You can have it at 0, it doesn't really matter, but when it gets down to when it's going to land, you want it at this speed, that way it doesn't just slam to the ground. So now when it goes to this AND statement, I have it as a 1.1% thrust onto each one of these, and each one of these is set for the actual weight of the rocket, and you have to adjust it whenever you add more objects onto it. But with that, it helps. I don't know why I have this here. This doesn't really matter. Oops, my bad. But this altitude sensor, yes, it goes here. And then this goes here. What is this? And statement. Okay, so this altitude sensor activates these two and statements right here. And each and statement has an output for each thruster at a certain altitude. Whoops. That way, it can basically catch itself at the very end of its landing. Now, this altitude sensor is a little bit lower, and this will activate this one, which I should have it like technically right next to it. But this one activates both of these rockets at 0.9 when it's lower. So basically it'll come down, slow itself, and then for about 5 seconds, and then this will activate at 60 meters high for about another 5 seconds because it's slowing itself, but it needs to stop for a second. And that's what this does. But other than that, that's exactly how this self-landing rocket works. Similar like the Tesla, the SpaceX models. Not exactly the same, but it works very similar. I don't know how to program this to be going into the same spot when it lands, but for the most part, it does its job. Oh, and another really important thing as well is the springs. I have this set to this stiffness and to this dampening because when you have it land, you want it to be nice and soft, just like that. Now we'll take off so we can show you the landing gear coming up. And go off for a bit, and it comes back down. This way, it can land. Landing gear, it's going to activate those thrusters at a higher thrust, and now land itself perfectly. And this will help you in your little role plays. You can program the thrusters or more thrusters like these, like so here, and you can set timers with and statements and other logic with it. And you can program it to move in different directions. But this is simply what I do. It's just something fun to do. Now this rocket's really cool because you can modulize it and turn it into whatever you need it to, and it will, and because of its ability to land by itself, it can be whatever thing you want it to be in whatever role play you're doing. Here's at a simple height, and it can re-land itself just from here, just like the real thing. Almost fell off there, but it stays upright with these little tiny thrusters. Oh my goodness. These little tiny thrusters help it balance in flight and on the ground without the need for gyros. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit a like and subscribe, and I will make more in the future. Bye.